And we are off. Hi, gang. Welcome back. We are now ready to wrap up the last one, the finale, the Grand Poobah, whatever that goes. The last of our positional training camp previews for your 2025 Miami Dolphins, joined once again by Miami Dolphins on the side deputy editor Dante Collinelli. And today we are wrapping up with the linebackers, a group that compared to the rest of the roster is remarkably solid with the potential to be good after the offseason moves. You kind of nodded halfway.
Yeah,
Do you
it's
disagree?
no, I don't think I disagree. I'm just surprised that I don't disagree. It's just kind of like yeah, that is pretty solid, right? Like I think obviously Tyrel Dodson is technically a returning player, but I mean he really only played in like 4 games last year, like a lot of snaps in like 4 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they add Willie Gay Jr. and KJ Britt, and low key, like they actually spent a ton of time on this room in the offseason, which is weird because they didn't really spend a lot of time on any other rooms this offseason outside of drafting 3 interior defensive tackles in the draft.
Yep.
They added 2 safeties as well. They spent a lot of time on that room, and 3 safeties if you count Minkah Fitzpatrick as well. So it's really safety and linebacker were the positions that they attacked in free agency and adding, new veteran players. So yeah, it's a pretty solid room, and it's got some nice depth, which I think what surprised me is I haven't felt that way about the Dolphins linebacker room in a few years. So it's a nice change of pace. We'll go with that.
No, without question. And the 2 newcomers, Gay and Britt, to me, look like clear upgrades over the 2 players who are not back. That's Anthony Walker Jr., who the Dolphins signed last year as a free agent, who's a solid veteran, who has limitations in coverage, and who has a long history of injuries. And lo and behold, he was injured for the Dolphins last year. And the other one is Duke Riley, who's a good special teams player, good locker room guy, but who has limitations as a linebacker that were exposed, I think, more so the year before. It may have been like the Tennessee Monday night game, maybe, where he was like had a hard time, or maybe last year, I don't remember.
Last year he had a few plays on special teams that were highly questionable. Let's say that.
No, correct. So I don't think there's any way in any way, shape, or form that anybody can argue the fact that the Dolphins didn't upgrade with the additions of Gay and Britt over Riley and come on, help me out, Walker. Sorry,
Walker, yes.
We signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the headliner of the group is Jordan Brooks, who came in as a free agent with the Dolphins. And by the way, he had a really, really good season. I don't know if it's quite to the level that some of our South Florida media colleagues would portray it. I heard best linebacking the Dolphins have gotten since Carlos Dansby. And to me, I'll go give me Kiko Alonso 2016 when he was a turnover machine. Anyway, that's beside the point. But he was good, and maybe it shouldn't have been a surprise. The dude was a former first-round pick of the Seattle Seahawks. It's just that his career in Seattle was okay. And ironically, the Dolphins also got Tyrel Dodson from the Seattle Seahawks. My only question, I think it's a group that's got good depth. That's a really solid core four, as they say in the NHL these days, with those 4 guys. And we'll talk about Channing Tindall a little bit later, because I know some fans are going, well, what about Channing? My only question is, or complaint is, until proven otherwise, even though I think Jordan Brooks is a good player, I would just love, and this is where if you follow the podcast and you followed long enough, I have like a very soft spot in my heart for Roquan Smith, who, when the Dolphins made the trade for Bradley Chubb in November 2022, I was like, oh, that would have been the guy I would have wanted. And I like Bradley Chubb. I think Bradley Chubb's a good player and is a good dude. I just think, to me, like a stud off-the-ball linebacker could do wonders for this defense. And Roquan Smith, who, by the way, now would have a connection to Anthony Weaver. Well, not if they acquired him in 2022. Erase. I don't remember when Weaver started with Baltimore. Anyway, that's the kind of linebacker I'd love to see the Dolphins have at some point. They don't have that. What they do have, again, is, to me, a very solid core four.
Yeah, I I think I am unfortunately one of the media colleagues who thinks Jordan Brooks is one of the best linebackers in the NFL based
All
off
that in a
last
bag of
season.
chips.
Yeah,
That's good. Fine.
dude, I love Brooks. I thought his tape was phenomenal last year. I thought outside of Zach Sealer, I thought he was the best defender on the team. Most consistent, really good tackler, fantastic run defender, really good speed. I think he's a competent coverage player. I was super impressed with Jordan Brooks. I don't think he's as I'll be honest, I don't think Roquan Smith was as good as he normally is last year. And if you're just basing it off of last year's play, just last year's play,
Okay.
I would tell you Jordan Brooks was better last year than Roquan Smith. Now, what I would say, obviously, is Roquan Smith's pedigree is much better than Jordan Brooks. He has a proven track record. If you asked me to pick one of those players, I'd still probably take Roquan Smith, but I think Jordan Brooks is trending up. I think that this is a player who can anchor the middle of your defense. This is a player with the requisite speed to be a high impact player at linebacker in the NFL level. And I know you know this, playing linebacker in the NFL now is hell. These guys are just, they're pulled every which way. Teams are using play action, all these crazy motions, these really wide sets. And then, so what happened is the NFL went to players who were fast and could cover. And now teams are moving back to condensed formations and running the ball a lot. And so you need to have a player who is a good, strong run defender who can take on contact and also is fast enough to get sideline to sideline and make plays in coverage. To me, that's Jordan Brooks. I think Jordan Brooks does all of that. Now, I think Brooks last year, that was the best year of his career. So we'll have to see whether or not it was, a one-hit wonder, if he's truly ascending up consistently. But man, I was so impressed when I went back to watch the Jordan Brooks tape at the end of the year. I really saw a player who came into his own, was really one of the few players in the middle of the defense that I felt good about at all, frankly, after watching the tape. So I think he could end up being one of the 5 best linebackers in the NFL this coming season. So there's your bold take of the linebacker.
Nice. I like it. And again, there's no empirical number or definitive black or white call. He is this, he is that. It's opinion, and I certainly respect yours absolutely. And maybe I'm the one who's off, whose expectations are too high for a linebacker. But yeah, he's a good your headliner. I think he's certainly solid, and then Dolphins are not in bad shape there. And again, they're so much better to me than they were last year. Tyrel Dodson had a couple of picks. That's what stands out to me about his season. And his was interesting because Dolphins got him because the Seahawks waived him halfway through his first year with them after they signed him as an unrestricted free agent, who, by the way, came over from the Buffalo Bills. I don't know how many Dolphin fans are familiar with that, but that's the deal. So Willie Gay Jr. is a guy who didn't have a great season with the Saints last year, had some good work with Kansas City earlier in his career. So does he get back to Kansas City form? Was last year an aberration, playing for an overall pretty mediocre team? We shall see. KJ Britt is smallish, but dude throws his body around without any care in the world. So he can bring that physical dimension to the position. So I do like the linebacker core. As I said, it's one of the most stable positions on the team. And if I'm wrong on my take, if I'm undervaluing Jordan Brooks, that makes it even better. I did promise we would discuss Channing Tindall, who unfortunately has not broken through yet on defense. And I don't know that there's a reason to expect that to change in 2025. To me, he's clearly number 5 on the depth chart. He's managed to stay on the roster primarily the way I see it. Because the Dolphins, and happens all the time with fairly high draft picks, is you don't want to give up until it's crystal clear that guy's not going to pan out. Let's cut our losses. If there's not an attitude issue, and there's none of that with Tindall. And so the Dolphins want to exhaust every possibility of him breaking through as a defensive player. Plus, in the meantime, he's contributed on special teams. At some point, he may get caught in a number situation where they don't need him to play on special teams. And if he doesn't break through on defense, then he shall be gone. So my take is 50-50 to make the 53. That's a lot of numbers, 50-50 to make the 53. And in a wild best case scenario, he contributes on defense, even though I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, I'd probably come down in the same spot. I mean, the interesting thing about the Dolphins' core four linebackers is I think you also have a ton of complementary skill sets in there too, right? Like Brooks is kind of an all-around player, but like Dotson, I know the interceptions stand out, but if you watch those interceptions, they're mostly tips. It's not like he's, closing zone windows and jumping in front of plays. He's a run defender. To me, I think that's where you get the most value out of Dotson, is defending the run. Willie Gay Jr. is kind of this speed backer, right? Like you want to keep him clean, let him run sideline to sideline, make plays. And then KJ Britt, although he's small, is a downhill thumper. Like he's just tough as nails. So you just send him, the guards pulling, just send KJ Britt in there like a missile and have somebody fire in behind him to get the tackle. So to me, you have four players who complete each other in a lot of ways. And so how does that relate to Channing Tindall? I don't really see a spot for Tindall to eke in there. Is kind of where I come down to it. It's like, okay, Tindall to me is like kind of this edge player, hybrid type player, right? Like he rushed the passer a decent bit at Georgia, played off the ball. That's kind of the Willie Gay Jr. thing. And by the time this episode comes out, I'll have a film review up on DolphinsOnSI.com for Willie Gay Jr. I think what New Orleans did to him last year was a disservice. I actually think he can be a decently impactful player for the Dolphins this year as your third linebacker. I just don't see an avenue for Channing Tindall to get on defense other than there's two injuries ahead of him, and the Dolphins would also have to keep him as the fifth linebacker and use him on special teams. So I don't really know if it's through any fault of what Channing Tindall's done. I'm not, in the meeting rooms knowing, what they think of his preseason performances and what they think of his training camp performances. He's just kind of been buried a bit on the depth chart. I mean, there was really no way that he was going to beat out David Long and Jordan Brooks last year to get on the field. Now, obviously, David Long's season ended up being a disaster, but, there was no way he was going to beat out David Long in the preseason or Anthony Walker, a veteran with a lot of experience. And so I just think he's going to have to make it on special teams. And if something, if there's some injuries that happen ahead of him, maybe he gets on the field, but I wouldn't bet on it.
No, and it's not just, you mentioned beating out David Long or beating out Jordan Brooks. And then what's not even just those guys. It's beating out, like last year, Duke Riley or Anthony Walker
right.
Jr. I mean, dude just was not able to carve out a role in defense. And I know he had one preseason performance that was really good in terms of a lot of number of tackles, but I don't know that there's anything that stood out about that game other than he made a lot of tackles. And it wasn't like he showed you something. And this is always where you caution. I believe it was the last preseason game where it's bottom of the roster player against bottom of the roster players. It's just, it is what it is. If he pans out, it's just a bonus for the Dolphins. But I think overall, pretty well set with those four guys. I like the group. I think they're significantly better than they were last year. Now, as far as how it compares to the rest of the NFL, this is off the ball linebackers. We're talking about the names in the division. Matt Milano from Buffalo, although he's battled injuries bad the last 2 years. If you can ever get back to 2022 Matt Milano, when he was, I believe, first team All-Pro, he was really, really good. But that's 2 years now with injuries. Wouldn't necessarily count on that. Terrell Bernard is their other inside linebacker. That's a really good player. I like him a lot. Quincy Williams for the Jets, a really good player. Jamie Sherwood came out of nowhere last year and busted out. I believe he led the NFL in tackles, was really good. And the Patriots, I'm going to have to look up because off the top of my head.
It is Robert Spillane and Christian Ellis. And depending on how you want to frame their defense, you could throw in Anthony Jennings into that mix as well. But I think it would be Spillane and Ellis would be the top two.
Spillane is like one of those no regard for his body, throws himself all over the place, formerly of the Steelers and the Raiders. Christian Ellis, the snippets I saw of him last year was against the Dolphins, and it was woof. He's got the pedigree, though, as the son of former defensive end. I want to say Luther Ellis, got like three brothers in the NFL. But I don't recall him impressing me a whole lot. I believe he's going to be a first-year starter as well as we do the projections. I think the Jets have a very good twosome there with Sherwood and Quincy Williams. Dolphins are right up there with them if we want to rank them across the AFC East.
Yeah, it's difficult. I obviously, given my love for Jordan Brooks, I would put him up against anyone in this division. I think where the Dolphins fall short for me is comparing a player like Tyrell Dotson to a player like Terrell Bernard and to a player like Jamien Sherwood.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's really so much a knock on Tyrell Dotson as it is a compliment to how good I think Terrell Bernard and Jamien Sherwood are. Like, I just think that those players are phenomenal. Like, I think they're very good. And Quincy Williams, I think he was an All-Pro this year, if I'm not mistaken, or last year. Like, he is an All-Pro now. He's really come on. He's very good. That family has done the Jets wonders in the middle of the defense. And then I think you made a great point about Matt Milano. When Matt Milano is healthy, he's probably one of the 4 or 5 best linebackers in the sport with a really nice pedigree. So, stiff competition. I think obviously better than New England. I think Robert Spillane's like a fine player. I don't have a ton of Christian Ellis tape under my belt, if I'm being completely honest. And I feel comfortable saying the Dolphins are better than New England. But for me, it's tough because I think Quincy Williams and Matt Milano are in the same ballpark, if not better than Jordan Brooks. I would probably put Brooks ahead of Quincy, but below Matt Milano personally. But I would stack the other LB2s much higher than Terrell Dotson. I think that they are above average players, and Dotson is a solid NFL player, and there's nothing wrong with that. But stiff competition in the AFC East again here. Just really nice linebacking cores across the board, Miami included, though. I think the Dolphins could earn some points if you look past the starters, right? Like, I like Willie Gay Jr. and KJ Britt as backups a good bit. I think they might have maybe a better core 4 than some of the other teams, maybe, but that's arguable, and those points probably should be negligible. So I don't know, second or third best linebacker room in the division. I think you could flip those 3 teams depending on how you feel about some of those individual players.
Yeah, and then 2 quick things. Quincy Williams was first team All-Pro in 2023.
Okay.
And then the other point that we would make is, regardless of where we rank the Dolphins, as I stated at the top here, this is one of the more solid groups, position groups for the Dolphins heading into training camp. So that's going to wrap it up. That's going to complete our positional training camp previews. Hope you've enjoyed them. Hope we have planted some thoughts, provided information, all that good stuff. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll be back early next week with some sort of a podcast. Pay attention to your notifications, exactly what it might be. It might be live. It might be taped. I don't know yet. We'll see how it happens. Anyway, he is Dante Collinelli. I am Alain Poupart. Please check out our written content at Miami Dolphins on SI.com. And thanks for watching.